Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train a Dragon podcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And let's start with a bit of a news update to those of you who haven't noticed, and I can blame you. It's pretty hard to notice with how DreamWorks advertised it. The final season of Dragon's Race to the Edge will premiere on Netflix on February 16th.
Whoa.
Yes, you want to know how DreamWorks announced it? On a very, very short Facebook video, and at the very last second of it. If you know, for some reason pause the video, if you watched it at all, you could have seen that little subtitle. And if you're like I didn't even watch the video. I just saw it on Tumblr. What about you, Wolf?
Pretty much the same. Like I saw it somewhere. Don't remember where. Doesn't matter. I saw it. Didn't watch the video though. Don't use
Yeah.
Facebook really, so
Mhm.
much. So
But
yeah.
but anyway, if we give you the impression that we are going to discuss what we think the final season will be like, well, not yet because we want to wait for a trailer to drop before we do this kind of stuff. But we are going to talk about something related to the show, and that's one of the things I think the show is really famous for, and a lot of people like it about the show. We are talking about Vigo. People like Viggo, right, Wolf?
I think so. Maybe just one or two.
Hmm.
At the very
Yeah,
least.
consider the fact that he drowned at the end of season four.
He
It's
did.
kind of.
Shame.
Mhm. Okay,
And
this
his
joke
brother
isn't
fell
working.
into lava and came back too, and it's like really
No,
weird that,
no, no.
he
He
drowned.
fell. He fell on a rock before he hit the lava.
Yeah, that is right.
Very
Very different.
common, common mistake, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Common mistake.
You're right.
But anyway, aside from our not funny and not accurate jokes, let's talk about Vigo. What are your thoughts on Vigo?
um like introduction wise, I think they introduced him really well. Probably one of the best
You,
villains the show
you
introduced
think
to
you
date.
think the show introduces all its villains well? So
Eh, I mean,
your words,
mostly
not mine.
true. Probably true. But I think this has definitely been one of the better ones. Like Mildew's was a little laid back. Alvin's was like it suited the character, but I think Vigo's was probably the best of them.
Because they also gave him a lot of build up before
Yeah, and
showing
that's
him to
definitely
us.
something they didn't really do with the other villains. Like Riker didn't really get a lot of build up. He was just there. Alvin was kind of just there. He came in, but there was no real build up to his character or anything.
Dagon was kind of there as
Well,
well.
he had that one episode of build up where you weren't 100% certain if he would ever be like a straight villain for that one episode. Like it very much could have been like that one episode, then you really don't see him ever again, you know? So that was a little interesting. Like they tried playing around with the formula a little bit right there, but most of the time there was never really a ton of build up to when we saw the characters. They were just in that episode and now they're kind of the main villain for a while.
Yes.
But Vigo it was
But
definitely different. Like you heard the dagger,
you heard his
Heather,
name. You know there was a guy. You know there was a guy named Vigo
who was
walking
above
some.
Riker. Yeah.
Yeah. You know there was a guy named Vigo, but until the season finale, we didn't really see him.
Mm-hmm. And it was
Okay, but
definitely different. And it was definitely
introduction.
enjoyable.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm done, more or less, for now.
Okay. What I did want to say is, so you like his introduction. What do you think about him as, in general thoughts? What do you think about him as a character villain? Whatever.
Um, as a character, like I really loved the I guess you'd say the subdued intellect there. I really love the focus on him being there is like he doesn't really want to take over anything. He's not about ruling the archipelago or anything. He just wants to do business. He just wants to make money. Like that's his focus. and I think that's really enjoyable. Like Alvin was about destroying Berk, Dagger was about hunting dragons, kind of destroying Berk, and also just getting back at Hiccup and Toothless. You know, like he was a mixture. Mildew was about just getting the dragons off of Berk, to then where now I just want to get revenge against Hiccup and Toothless because they've slighted me so many times. But Vigo, for a while it started off it started off as, I just want to do business. You're interrupting me from doing my business. Leave me alone. And then it slowly developed into more just, all right, now I want to just get back at you for screwing me so many times,
Mhm.
which was enjoyable.
Uh, yeah, so I'm kind of on the same boat with you. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty obvious if we say probably best villain in the show, in my opinion.
Definitely up there at the very least.
Hmm. One of the best one of the
Mm-hmm.
best from the show. Like, yeah, I think also he came at the right time. He was nice change of pace in terms of villains, in terms of characters. It was a nice change of pace, which came at the right time, I think, because everyone pretty much agreed that season one of Race to the Edge was a lot of charting familiar territory, and Vigo
Yeah.
was, and season two of Race to the Edge was pretty much the uh, was okay. Let's kick things up a notch, and Vigo was kind of the last thing that we needed in order to close this season. We needed like a villain that meant business in this
Mm-hmm.
show. So I like him for that, and I just like him as a villainous character. He has a lot of great lines. I'll say that much, and of course, Alfred Molina is great as a villain. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he plays villains really well.
Vigo is definitely one of those characters who you just really want to listen to them talk. Like, seeing them do things you don't really care too much about. They have people who can do the things for them. You just love hearing them talk with the hero. Like,
Hmm.
I genuinely, I would say some of Vigo's best scenes are where it's just him and Hiccup going back and forth.
Yeah, I think
Or just
even though
in general, just
not,
it's hearing Vigo go back and forth with someone.
I kind of have this thought that even though when people say How to Train a Dragon, they mostly think about the movies rather than the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say that Vigo is the closest thing that is the one villain that came closest to be Hiccup's Joker, if you know what I mean, like that opposite
Hmm.
side of a coin.
I don't know.
Like, it's debatable, and I
It
can see
definitely
a
a
lot
way
of
to look. It's definitely a way to look at it. Not sure I'd 100% agree, but yeah,
like
I get where you're coming from.
I'm not, I'm not saying this is the thing I most believe in. Like, I'll say Drago fits in that category a bit more because for various reasons, but I can see how Vigo can fit into this as well.
Hmm.
Okay, so we pretty much anything else in your general thoughts on Vigo, or can we move on to the favorite and least favorite moments?
Uh, no, just overall a really fun and enjoyable character, villain or not, and I'm glad we got it or him.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, you want to go ahead with your favorite, or
Ooh, sure I can. I would say,
if you need to think, I got one ready.
oh, if you want to
So
go ahead
what?
first, go ahead. If you want to go first.
Okay, so I'll just say that in terms of a favorite moment, I don't necessarily have a specific favorite moment, but one thing that really stood out to me, in Mazes and Talents parts one and two, the season two finale of Race to the Edge.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he hears of Hiccup, he kind of has the thing. Okay, another person I need to sort of go against another, like a person that it's a person that's trying to. I don't want to say overthrow him, but a person that wants to challenge him. Like there's a right, he knows that there's a rivalry coming. That's the point. And each move Hiccup makes, he sees that he gets from the very first time he sees Hiccup's moves that Hiccup is a guy that is a person that knows what he's doing. He's not stupid. On the contrary, he sees that Hiccup is smart, and
Well, I
he
mean, just to quote the line from Vigo, again, we may be adversaries, Hiccup, but my respect for you is beyond what I could possibly put into words.
yes,
Right?
exactly. But but before he says that line, before he even meets Hiccup, but he sees the way Hiccup acts, the moves Hiccup pulls in this greater battle, I guess I could say,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't, and he has those lines that like a lot of villains will say like, he did this, how predictable. He doesn't do that. He kind of seems eager about Hiccup being a match for him. He
Mm-hmm.
seems eager about having a challenge in his opponent, and I like that. I like that. Again, he has respect for Hiccup, even though they are on different sides of the battle. And I like that. I like that there's a villain that actually, like, Vigo has his ego. I'm not going to pretend he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to, like, I like that angle that he wants this to be challenged. He wants this guy that actually has a brain and not just a muscle. He he seems and he's like he's so thrilled to have this challenge. I like that. That's my personal favorite moment.
Okay. Well, for mine, I think I was going to say the intro to Maces and Talons, but to pick a different one in a different episode, another moment that I think is really enjoyable to watch and see play out is Defenders of the Wing Part 1, where Vigo meets Hiccup on that island
Oh, you will
surrounded
go in.
by blue oleander.
Hmm.
I think that's a really good moment. And again, it's just
Yeah.
another scene with Vigo talking.
Hmm. And I think it's also the scene where we get it that he's not necessarily a villain per se, but what he does is not necessarily right, but he doesn't see himself as a villain, which is an interesting angle.
Oh no, I mean, like even in Maces and Talons, one man's light is another man's dark. He says that, right? Like he very much
Yeah.
clearly thinks he's not a villain, even though to the Dragon Riders, he is a villain in what he's
Yeah,
doing to
but at that
dragons.
point though, to Hiccup he's a villain but at that point he tells Hiccup, I'm not necessarily a villain.
A
I'm,
businessman.
yeah, I'm a businessman, and to the people who think we will get to this one certain line later down the road in this
Mm-hmm.
episode, probably. But for right now, we're ignoring it. So what line?
What line? Yeah, sure. That line doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Made it up. Anyways, moving on.
Mhm. So yeah, but good moment. This may be my second favorite Viggo moment if I can choose seconds. But yeah,
What is your least favorite though?
yeah. Now the least favorite. I I'm not going to react that I'm not one of those people that say, "Oh, they should have left him dead." I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like, but and again, I probably went on and on about how I see in the season 4 finale as like the end all be all finale that it was meant to be before they got renewed.
Mm-hmm.
I went on and on about this, and I could tell that they wanted to kill Vigo at this point, but something about like, oh, there was a rock there. Obviously, is something about the way they couldn't you think of something better? Maybe the dragon eye saved them. Maybe Krogan saved him. We saw Krogan gliding in the air, so why not? And I don't know. The fact that there was a rock there that saved them kind of seemed, and we pretty much,
It's definitely a bit of a Deus Ex Machina.
yeah.
Like you can
I
definitely
believe
view it as
I
that.
believe we talked about this in the season 5 review we did. That was I said that of course there was a rock there. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
The, so it's not necessarily that he's alive. It's how they kept him alive. That's the thing. And if I can like a second runner up, because I personally don't really see it, but I know a lot of people do, and I can maybe get it that sometimes it seems a bit too clever and a bit too smart for that the writers sometimes are saying, well, he's smart, let's use his brains in order to write the episode that way. You know what I mean?
I have a moment probably depicting just that.
Okay,
Don't steal it
so
from me.
no, I am not. Go ahead. Go.
My
Actually, that was the perfect segue. And do it.
Absolutely. My least favorite moment I would say would be like looking at the kind of like his plan wise. Like sometimes his plans are so outrageous that how exactly do you expect this to work, but it still works. One of those plans being Buffaloed Soldier
Yeah.
from that episode. Like that one was a bit ridiculous in like exactly how you expected it to work, and that it did work even at all in general anyways. So, and
Yeah.
we've talked about this before.
Yeah. We talked. I think it was when we did season 3 of Race to the Edge. We pretty much, there are a lot of ifs in his plan, even
In
in
that one at the very least.
yeah, and in the scene you picked as your favorite, we also kind of, that was a pretty, you know, like what would have happened if Hiccup didn't show up at that
I mean,
field? Like,
at the very
it,
least, right? Like I can kind of see the Defenders of the Wing Part 1. I can kind of see that one working out. Like that one doesn't feel extremely outrageous because it plays off of Hiccup a bit more. Like you specifically went out of your way to make that line right there to give Hiccup a map signed by you. Like that one I can at least see a bit more. Bleh, Buffaloed Soldier though, like that one, it's like, well, I'm just gonna leave these ships with sick people scattered about here and there, hoping that one of the Dragon Riders will get sick and they'll lead me straight to the Buffalord.
preferably Astrid.
Anyone, you know,
Yeah,
it's just
you
either way, it's kind of
I,
like a bit
but
ridiculous.
sometimes he makes such. Because we just talked about how many ifs his plan has have.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of the writers, and he's like preferably Astrid, finds it, she will.
It definitely a lot of ifs to some of his plans that, at the very least, can start to become a bit outlandish in just the fact that they even work to begin with. So it's definitely, you know, it can come off a bit kind of okay. Moving on, I guess. You know,
Moving
so
on. So, how high would you rank him among the other How to Train Your Dragon villains?
mm, we've done this a few times already, I
Yeah,
think.
we've done this, but we always do this with villains. So why not?
Considering, like, we've seen some of Krogan now at this
Yeah,
point.
this does bring up a good point that we haven't done this kind of ranking with Krogan in mind.
Or with Johan yet.
Well, we don't really have anything to rank
Yeah, that's what I'm
Johan
saying.
up.
That's what I'm saying.
We
Like,
need to,
oh, go ahead.
no, what I'm saying that we know Johan is a villain, but we haven't really seen him do villainous stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
until the next season is out, we
Yeah, the
don't really have
ranking
anything to
could
go.
definitely change, yeah.
Mhm.
But with at least Krogan in mind, and Johan being kind of the question mark unknown off to the side of the list, not placed yet, I would
Mhm.
say Vigo's definitely, like, at the very least, maybe second or third.
Okay. You know what? I'll be a bit more specific. I'll say third for me. And keep in mind, guys, I'm talking about as a villain, not as a character overall. As a character overall, he'll probably rank above who I choose for number one. So let me just say this: Vigo, in terms of villains, Vigo is number three.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Drago is one, and Krogan is two. Now, why is Vigo below Krogan and Drago? Kind of a simple fact, really. Drago and Krogan killed people, not dragons, people.
Well, didn't Vigo kill a person as well, or no?
I don't recall him killing someone.
That dude who he was in Maces and Talons Part 1, who he was trying to, like, do the whole, hey, Heather, wink, wink, I know you're a traitor, wink, wink, but I'm going to kind of show you an example by threatening this guy's life. Like, didn't he kill that guy or no? Did he let
I
that guy
don't.
go? It's been a
I think.
while. I'm a
I
terrible
think.
fan.
I think. You know what? Someone in the comments, if we are wrong about this, correct us. But I don't think he killed them. I don't remember, at least.
He may not have. So you might be right.
Yeah, but the thing is that because when I think about because killing a character is kind of the worst thing you can do, and Drago hypnotized Toothless to kill Stoic. This is like
Again,
no villain, no
Drago killed
Don't
nobody.
start this with me. Don't start this. But anyway, there's that. This is kind of the ultimate psychotic way. And Krogan pretty much killed one of his own men because he wanted to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
But, so Vingo didn't go there as far as I remember. So that's put him a bit below these two. But outside of that, outside of the killing part, I'll probably. Maybe if Krogan hadn't killed anyone off on screen, I would probably put Vigo as second. But as villains, that's kind of a big point to grant and take off. So Vigo is third in terms of villains only.
Just looked it up, and people are probably going to be wondering what that quick audio thing was. That was Vigo. I looked it up real quick just to make sure. But yeah, you are right. Vigo did not kill that guy.
Yes.
So people are going to hear a... Sorry, but you're probably going to hear a small, like, from the show, like, very quickly before it gets muted.
I didn't hear it.
But you can't. They will in the recording, though.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But I just have to say, I just had my own Vigo moment. I was so sure that something is going to play out the way I intend to, and I was right.
But yes, you were right. He did not kill that guy, but he did threaten to. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you said it at second or third. Who would be the first and?
Krogan's. I think he's probably tied for third with Krogan at the moment. I need to see more of Krogan before I can really place either of them as of yet.
You know, another reason I'll put Krogan above Vigo is that Krogan actually gets the idea to use the dragons against Hiccup.
Mm-hmm.
How come nobody did this?
Because no one's as smart as Krogan.
Oh,
Obviously, he's better.
You know what? Go with... I can't believe I forgot his name. Volder, I think, right? The guy from Serpent Cell. Yeah, go with him. Just become a dragon.
But,
Anyway, you were saying?
I think, for me personally, just because I enjoyed the character a lot and I enjoyed the arc to the character, I think I would still have Mildew at number 2 and then Drago at number 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're wrong. For purely subjective reasons.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, anyway, Who do you think is a better partner for Vigo, Riker or Krogan? Because we saw him work with both of them.
Well, I mean, Riker did betray him, so that kind of puts him out as the running of in the running of partners, you know.
Hmm.
Although I would expect Krogan and Vigo to not consistently work together at some point. Like I expect there's going to be a betrayal, right? Because I mean,
Hmm.
you even have the line, right? Like alone, each of us in our own right are, shall we say, dangerous, but together think of the possibilities. We need each other, like it or not. And that's Krogan to Vigo. So I mean, you know, they don't want to work together, but they do need to work together.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
Okay.
not a relationship of, yeah, we like each other. It's a relationship of we tolerate
Yeah.
each other.
We're co-workers, not friends.
Mm.
Hmm. Which one would you pick?
As of right now, I mean, I would say Krogan's probably gotten more done, but, I mean, that's, again, partnership implies that, you're both helping one another. Krogan's more so in this for himself and helping himself. Vigo's kind of just there for the ride mostly.
Hmm.
Like, I'm sure if Vigo is no longer needed by Krogan or Johan at this point, then they'll drop him like a rock
Hmm.
into a
Yeah.
volcano.
Well, yeah. The rock is still there, I think.
The other
So.
side may not have a rock. Go to the other side.
Mhm. Okay. So in terms of myself, and I'll say Riker works. I think Riker works better. Forget the betrayal for a second. I think Riker works better for as a partner for Vigo. Not necessarily because they're brothers, but it kind of seems like the traditional. If Vigo's the brain, Riker's the muscles and the field man.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of creates the dynamic that each one of them has his own strengths, but together they're a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like that dynamic. However, with Krogan, it's it's not necessarily that Krogan is either smart or strong necessarily, but it kind of feels like they're both pretty similar. So it just feels like we copy and pasted the character, if you know what I mean.
Understandable.
Not again, not that Krogan is a big ripoff or the other way around or anything,
They
but
both serve a similar purpose and kind of do
yeah,
very similar things. Like they're both planners.
hmm exactly. They have the same plans. They have the same basic needs, and at the end of the day, it, and yeah, I just think like I like this team up, and I think for the most part they work off each other well. But in terms of partner, I like unit the unit dynamic that Vigo has with Riker more than which he doesn't have with Krogan, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Like I said it before, right? Like I felt Vigo's really good when he's sitting back just talking with people, right? And Riker was one of those people who could go out and get things done, and that's like I think that's definitely a really good symbiotic relationship. With Krogan, he also seems to be good at the sitting back and just talking with people to a
Hmm.
degree at least. Though I would still say Vigo's better in that regard. But when you have two villains that are kind of serving that similar purpose where they can both kind of just sit back and talk and be sinister and come off as sinister people and people that you should be afraid of and want to be afraid of, it's kind of the relationship and the partnership feels a bit kind of null and void a little bit because they both serve the same purpose. So you expect at some point that these two characters are going to want to try and betray one another. And it feels
Yes.
like they might also be setting Johan up for kind of a similar role as well as someone who's going to be interesting to just sit back and
Yeah,
listen to
that,
talk.
that's actually a dynamic I do want to see in the
Mm-hmm.
in the next season, or how. like we kind of have Krogan and Vigo pretty much, you know, great minds think alike
Mm-hmm.
kind of relationship, and I want to see how Johan fits into it because we have to get used to a whole new Johan now. He's not the same person we thought we know.
Mm-hmm. It'll definitely be interesting to see how they slot
Mhm.
him in, if they can.
Yeah. So anyway, now is the fun part of the episode. Are you ready?
No.
Well, Joybreaker won, and okay, but so what do you think Vigo's relationship with Drago is like? And it's kind of like a fun how they do business type of thing because yeah, let's talk about that line. I don't want to conquer the world as opposed to some people.
Mm-hmm.
Vigo most likely heard of Drago. He probably sold them stuff. We talked about this in the show prior, but yeah, how do you think these two do business?
um, Probably similar to Aerith, I would say, where they capture dragons, they send him dragons. Simple enough.
I'm not sure if I said this before, but I only said because, Eret kind of sails at the sea and eventually arrives at Dragos. Like, he even says this is and because when he shows Ikapenastrid, like, the skull Drago gave him, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what he did when the last time I showed up empty-handed. So he probably just sails and eventually arrives at Dragos, but for Vigo, I think the Drago actually needs to go out of his way to trade, if you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because they have this big Dragon Hunters base.
Yeah. I
Like
don't I
if
don't
Eretz
feel Drago
like
himself goes to Vigo. I think, again, like he sent Krogan, like I think he'll send people in his stead because why would he not? He has no reason to go out of his way to go there. So but like I don't feel like, Vigo and Drago have ever 100% personally met maybe. I don't I take that back. I think Vigo has met him at least once, very simply because like that I think that's his kind of character. Like he wants to know who he's getting in business with. So when they first heard of one another, or like when one first came to the other with the offer, like I think there was definitely like a meeting there to kind of get to know who you're getting in bed with. But I also think Vigo's the type of person who he doesn't care so much as he doesn't care in so much as long as the money is good and he's making money. As long as the money's there, as long as you're paying him, we're good. You stop, no more business. Simple as that.
uh, you know, this is kind of a thing that no answer is really wrong until someone confirms it.
Or denies, yeah.
Yeah, but the way I say it, like again, I said that if Eret is like a mailman, he shows up every once in a while with a few dragons for trade,
Mm-hmm.
and like I do, and again, Vigo has this base that pretty much keeps a hold of all the dragons, and they keep him trapped in ships and all this kind of stuff. And underwater, they have plenty of places where they are holding dragons, so it makes sense that Drago probably stops by. Like I think,
I would
may
still, I would still disagree. I would say like
like
again,
I'm
they
not saying that he's a regular customer, but he probably stopped by at least once.
yeah, like I
The,
said, I think they met for that first potential business meeting of, do we become partners? Do we not? Do we trust each other to become partners? Do we trust each other enough to become partners? And Vigo probably showed off the business a little bit and what he's capable of, and got to see if Drago was someone who could keep up his end of the bargain of paying the gold and keeping the gold flowing. Again, like basically your general business meeting of
yeah,
you know
I just want to see like a Drago arriving at the Dragon Hunter's base and like yelling at someone, "Where's your leader?" And then Vigo just calmly shows up and there's no need to shout, good sir. I don't know why. It doesn't fit.
Maybe. But I
Right,
mean,
once again, Wolf, shutting my confidence.
I can't let you get a big head.
Hmm.
But like, to give a different analogy, like Vigo is the established a corporation. Arid is the kind of small startup, if you will.
Hmm. Elliot is the Kickstarter. Is
Yeah.
the you know what did I want to say? I had some. Yeah, he's like the private business kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Small startup who's still kind of getting started, but definitely has somewhat of an establishment getting there. Vigo, though, he's already completely established and just
Yeah.
has everything he needs already, and he's good to start going.
Hmm. So anyway, next category is how small do you think Vigo is compared to Hiccup?
Um, I mean, I would say they're probably equal in some ways, at the very least. Like they
Hmm.
both know how to plan.
Yeah, and here's where I come in with my thoughts. In terms of planning, they are pretty much equal, but in terms of actual, let's say, factual smart, I'll say Hiccup probably has one edge over Vigo, and that's his. Hiccup is a blacksmith, so in terms of developing new like not necessarily traps, but in developing new, for like a better word, gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so as like in the field of craftsmanship, craftsmanship and stuff, Hika probably has an advantage over Vigo in that category. In terms of planning, Vigo seems to have a slight advantage, even though Hiccup showed that he's compatible of out thinking him. So in terms of planning, they're pretty much equal. In terms of building stuff and actually inventing things, Hiccup is a bit smaller, or just smarter in general, not even a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Got anything to say? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you
I
think about?
I would mostly agree. Like I think again, Hiccup is an inventor, but that doesn't mean he's smarter than Vigo. Like yeah, Vigo may not be kind of an inventor or the creative type, but that doesn't make him any less smart than Hiccup when it comes
Oh
to
no,
other things.
I'm not saying he's less smart. I'm just saying that Hiccup has that category and that other category we need to take into account because people said that after Vigo show was introduced, Hiccup started acting like a stupid person. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You forget some stuff.
Like yeah, I would agree. Like I think they're very much equal. Is what I would say for the most part. I think they
Yeah.
both have their strong suits where, their strengths where they're smarter than the other one at certain things, but for
Mm-hmm.
the most part they're definitely equal where it counts. But
Okay. I
yeah.
have a next question. You have anything else to say?
No, no, we're good.
So, do you think Vigo ever ran into Valka or Eret at one point? I want to say probably. I'm not sure if he ran into Eret at any point, but I'm pretty sure Valka most likely heard of him.
I would say no.
Hmm. Okay, you want to explain first?
I mean, Eret, I definitely doubt. Definitely doubt. Unless the show final season comes on, proves me wrong in some way, I would say Vigo's never heard of Eret or never met him, and I would say the same for Volka as well. Like they've never met or heard of one another, more than likely.
Hmm. Okay, in terms of me, you know how Valka is pretty much like a dragon vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she goes around saving trap dragons and taking them to into the Bewilderbeast and Sanctuary and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe that if she one day just traveled with her dragons at a certain point in sea, or she probably like I'm not necessarily that she met Vigo face to face, but she obviously knows Drago, and that he has all of his trappers catching dragons and selling them and stuff. So there's a good chance that she may have encountered Vigo's men, but not necessarily Vigo himself.
I mean, it's possible, right? But I think,
Again,
it,
it's all theorizing
oh
for
yeah,
fun.
absolutely. Like,
Until someone comes out and either confirms or denies, we
mm-hmm.
can say whatever the hell we want. Or think.
Certainly. Then I think Volka loved Vigo and fell in love with him. That's why she left Stoic and Hiccup.
Okay, wait a minute. I need to get something.
Oh dear. While we're waiting, I would say,
I got it, but
oh dear.
sadly I can't print my "you're fired" stamp through my phone. So you're still in. Just consider your words wisely, young man. Even though you're older than me, you are a young man.
Yeah, no, I'll stick with it. Volka definitely fell in love with Vigo. But I mean,
Oh my!
being serious though, right? It's definitely possible they could have
You
met.
know what?
It's
Go
definitely
on.
possible
I'm
she could have had.
pretty sure. Before you go on, I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure there's some person out there that ships it.
Possibly. Or we just created a new ship here on the Berkcast. You're welcome. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you know what? If you ever do anything with this, just send it to us. We'll read it. Don't expect us to take it seriously. We'll probably make fun of it, but here's a plug bunny.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, in seriousness, like it's probably definitely possible that she could have met his men, you know. But I, I don't know. I would say it kind of muddies the waters a bit, personally. So I mean, like I can't say it wouldn't be interesting to have the two of them meet and see them interact with one another and how they go about doing it. But at the same time, if they never did, it's not something that I'm like hurting for, right?
Mhm.
And the same
You
would
know,
go with Arid as well. Like it would be again interesting to see and hear, but not something that like I'm going out of my way for or like hurting to see or anything like that.
mhm. Okay, interesting. Um, so I kind of had a question in the script about what do you think of about him surviving, but we pretty much covered that. Like I don't mind. My 2 cents is I don't mind him surviving. I just think the way he survived was kind of an afterthought.
To a degree, like it was very. Yeah, again, it was kind of a Deus Ex Machina a little bit.
Hmm. So, what do you see for Vigo in the final season, which comes out in less than a month?
Ooh, I mean, I said a little bit before, right? Like I would expect that either him or Krogan are going to betray one another, or that Johan and Krogan are going to betray Vigo. Like something's definitely going to happen there. Like I expect to see that. I don't
There's
expect.
so you're saying there's going to be a betrayal, but you are just not sure who is going to betray who.
Yeah, I would expect like someone there is going to like Vigo's only there because he's currently useful, right? Like the second he's no longer useful, I full well expect to see them just drop him
Hmm.
because he has very little control in the area right now. And I mean, you even see like Vigo going out of his way to kind of make friends with his old, you know, with the hunters and everything to make sure they're a little bit more loyal to him than they are to Krogan. Krogan mistreats them. He doesn't care about any of them. Vigo does care. He doesn't necessarily go out of his way to mistreat them. He wants them to
Like I
trust him.
said, Rogan killed someone on screen. Vigo didn't.
No, he didn't.
Just
That was a black screen, so he didn't kill someone on screen.
yeah, but the implication is pretty obvious.
But he didn't, so technically we don't know. Maybe that guy's still alive.
No. That guy's dead.
No, we don't
That
know
guy.
that. It was a black screen. He could
You
very much so
don't.
be alive.
You
As
don't.
a matter of
You
fact,
don't. You
I've
don't
seen
know.
that same guy
No.
all throughout the season already in multiple places. So that guy's still alive.
How many defenders of the wing people look exactly the same?
I don't know what you're talking about. They're all wearing masks. They could all be different. That guy's never wearing a mask whenever he's on screen.
How many hiccup and headers are among the defenders of the wing?
I don't know what you're
Oh,
talking about. They're all wearing masks.
no. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, like, but yeah, you're right. I'm just having fun, mostly.
Of course.
But
I'm going with the joke.
it's like I would definitely expect to see, like, again, they're kind of building up their, both of them are building up their power base a little bit right there, right? So I would expect to see a betrayal there on someone's part.
You know, kind of a weird analogy, but what the hell? You know how you're in a bus and there's no place for you to sit, so you just stand and holding on to a pole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now another person like holds the same pole as you, and because you don't want to hold it at the same place he holds it, you're eventually kind of playing a game who holds the pole the highest.
Sure. I'm following you at
That's
the moment.
that's kind of how Vigo and Krogan are, in my opinion, in terms of controlling the dragon hunters.
I guess. Also, I feel like that could be taken horribly out of context, but sure, I guess.
Like I said, weird analogy. I have no idea where it came from. HC has weird analogies. What the hell? What else is new?
Now, interesting drawing idea. Have Vigo and Krogan standing on, on a bus or on a subway car, standing on the pole, and just slowly just
Yeah,
see them fighting over who has their hand higher until they get up to where it's just at the top of the ceiling of
and
the
then they
subway
see
car.
Johan. Then they see Johan.
Standing on top of the train car, obviously.
I betrayed Stuik the Vest. What makes you think I won't betray you two?
Really dumb idea. Moving
Somebody
on.
draw this. If you will draw this, you will be my new favorite person in the world.
You say this every time, by the way. He has a lot of favorite people
Yeah,
whenever
here's
they
the
draw
thing.
something.
I said that no one has actually done the thing I said. So,
You have
like
a lot
with
of favorite people.
the stoic build part, I didn't really say whoever will do this will be my new favorite person in the world. I started saying this afterwards. But if you will do this fan art, you will be my new favorite person in the world.
But yeah, moving back on topic, I don't
Yeah,
expect
back
to
on.
see him necessarily either. And I kind of hope they don't do the, like, hey, he's kind of a good guy now working with Hiccup. Like,
Yeah, same. Agree.
I kind of hope they don't do it. There's a
Yeah,
bit of an
because
expectation
one,
that they might do it, but I also kind of expect them to just not have Vigo live through this season in its entirety.
here's how I see it. I don't want Vigo to turn into a good guy because one, we kind of did it in season 4,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, because we had this entire is Vigo the bad guy, is Riker the bad guy
Mm-hmm.
fiasco. We had that, so we technically kind of did this, and then there's the other thing that every villain was pretty much reformed now. Like Alvin was reformed, Dagger was reformed.
Mildew was forgotten about.
Yeah, Mildew was knocked into outer space and never heard from again. What space shuttle in my basement? I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, yeah, that like a lot of villains were reformed. So, and really, we need another reformed villain. Come on, guys.
It's getting it's definitely getting to a point where it's a bit samey. So it would be nice to see them do something a little bit different. Either just at the very least, Vigo leaves. It's just something that's different, like either
That,
he's still a
no,
villain and him and Hiccup just part on
Yeah,
respectable terms. Like they just
yeah,
say like we
because
respect one another.
we kind of need to take into consideration that whatever the final fate for Vigo is in the season, we will probably never see him again because you know how to
Probably.
turn two. So what exactly are we doing? Like, are they going to kill him off again?
I mean, the
This
same
time,
goes with Krogan and Johan as well. Like, what's going to happen there?
yeah. So you know, this is kind of an entire episode. This is probably also a discussion to when they'll release a trailer and we'll talk about the next season. And once the season will actually come out and we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so what do I see for Vigo in the final season? Well, I can see that the team up of Vigo, Krogan, and Johan will probably be a bit dysfunctional because here's the thing: Vigo sees the Dragon Hunters as his own business,
Mm-hmm.
like he's the one that started the entire thing. Krogan kind of, I think, sees himself as the next in line to lead this business, and Johan is pretty much he's the first one to pull out the traitor card, in my opinion, because you know he betrayed anyone else. So
Mm-hmm.
I can see that he's probably using them to get at the King of Dragons. So supposedly the Bewilder Beast.
I don't think it's going to be the Wildebeest, but we'll see.
I'm not either, but that's a topic for another day, though.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, somebody said that the series could pretty much end in a Mexican standoff. I can totally see it with Vigo, Krogan, and Johan, and throw Hiccup into Lucinda because why not?
Sure. Not
Mhm.
not really a Mexican standoff at that point, but sure.
Or Russian roulette, who gets the plasma blast first?
There you go.
Okay, but yeah, that's what I see for Vigo in the final season. There will be a betrayal. I'm not sure who will betray who, but hey.
Does Tooth in we need this is why see darn it Rush you weren't here, you ruined it. We could have had a line from you where you sat back and said, "Well, does Toothless have plasma in his mouth right now or nothing? What do you think, Vigo, Riker, Johan? Take a
Hmm.
guess."
Well, you know what? In maybe next episode, we'll ask him to do that line. Remember that for me. And but anyway, anything else you want to say on Vigo?
It, yeah, definitely one of the characters the show has introduced that I definitely would say has been one of the better ones.
Hmm.
Like he's definitely up there
Yep, no doubt.
and was a
So,
welcome addition.
mhm. So that's been all for this episode of the Berkcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts on Vigo? Do your favorite moments, least favorite moments? What do you think will happen to him? What do you think about him being alive? What are your thoughts on Vigo in general? You can tell us about all of this on either the comment section, on Tumblr we are Berkcast Team, on Twitter we are at Berkcast with capital B, capital C. We are all on Discord, and you can find all of us on the Berk forums. So until next time, I was HC.
And I've been Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.